Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Eider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons and Polar Craft Boats, the Forward Corporation, Primal Outdoors, Security Credit Union, Garber Chevrolet, Brenton USA Hunting Rifles, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to another edition of the Outdoor Magazine radio show right here on the Outdoor Magazine radio network on more than 30 radio stations across the great state of Michigan. And so glad to have you along with us. What's been going on in your world this last week since we've last talked? Have you had a chance to get outdoors, do anything fun? Has Mother Nature helped you, or has Mother Nature hurt your outdoor passions, your outdoor pursuits this last week? It has been kind of weird downstate, that's for sure. Up and down and up and down and up and down. I did get a big flock of robins that showed up in the backyard this past week. Now look, I know that not all the robins head south for the winter. I know that you can see robins right on through the wintertime, but I haven't been. I hadn't seen a robin since probably November. So when a flock of them showed up in the backyard the other day, to me, it was indeed a sign that springtime is not too far off. But I do have a question for you. Why do we have a state bird that for the most part abandons us during the roughest time of the year? Why do we honor a bird who flies away from us for a few months a year? That doesn't make any sense to me. I would prefer to see a state bird that stays here year-round. I don't care if it's a cardinal, a blue jay, a chickadee, whatever. I think a chickadee would be a great choice. They're a friendly little bird. When you're out deer hunting and real silent and quiet, they'll fly up to you and chirp at you and say hi. Another sign of springtime, skunks. Dead skunk in the middle of the road. I have not seen one yet. I haven't even smelled one yet, but I've had a lot of reports across the state, the southern part of the state, about skunks, dead skunks. To me, I always say my true sign of springtime is when the red-winged blackbirds show up on the pond behind the house. I have not seen one of those yet, but people know I keep an eye out for such things, and I have had reports of red-winged blackbirds in the southern part of the state from a couple of different people. So they're moving their way north. So it's coming. It's not too far off. Springtime to me means a couple of things, primarily turkey hunting season. I am really looking forward to that this year. I find myself as I drive around the back roads, the country roads, I'm looking off on the edge of the fields. I'm not looking for deer. I'm looking for turkeys. You know, am I seeing birds? They're still all flocked up now, right? And their patterns will be somewhat different by the time the turkey season starts. But I just like knowing that there are birds in the area. So when it comes time for me to turn my attention toward those things, they're going to be around. Have you noticed this time of year as you're driving around and looking, as we all do, right? It's hard to drive down a country road or a back road and keep your eye on the road in front of you because you're looking off to the side. You're looking for critters. And you will not see a deer this time of year. You will not see one deer this time of year. When you see deer this time of year, you see a bunch of them. You'll see a group of them. You'll see a herd of them. And that always happens this time of year. They tend to herd up, group up, and you do get a good feel for how many deer are in your area as well. Okay, let's go from deer to bear, my favorite big game animal. Did you see that the Michigan DNR biologists have recommended to the NRC, the Natural Resources Commission, to knock down the number, to reduce the number of bear tags for Michigan bear hunters this year? And they say the reason for that is because statistics show that Michigan bear hunters have become more proficient and more efficient in harvesting bears. Now, apparently, they weren't watching my bear hunt this past fall because that didn't happen for me. But overall, the statistics show that Michigan bear hunters are getting better and they're harvesting more animals. So as a result, the biologists say, look, we don't want to harvest any more bears. So we're recommending that we cut back on the number of bear tags issued here in Michigan. The NRC, as I'm sitting here in the studio right now, has not acted on that. I don't know if that'll happen at the next meeting or what, but it is something to keep an eye on. I think it is true anecdotally from what I've seen that the range of Michigan black bears has expanded. They're working their way south. I know in mid-Michigan, central Michigan, where I live, we're seeing them routinely. They're showing up in people's backyards at the bird feeders. They're showing up in people's trail cameras. So the range of the bears is expanding south. And I think that's cool. I think that's great. I love bears. I love knowing bears are in the area. I love seeing bears. I love hunting bears. I don't pretend to be smart enough. I don't pretend to be a wildlife biologist. And so I will say that if the wildlife managers in the DNR think that we need to cut back on the number of bear tags, then so be it. I would stand behind that because they are the experts. I'm not. It would make me very sad if I didn't get a tag next year because of it. Although, in talking with some people, they say probably the reductions would be in the first or second seasons, not in the third season, which I have come to love because you can, at this point, you can get a tag for a lot of areas every other year in the UP. But because I love to bear hunt so much, that's why I go to Ontario every year. You can buy a tag over the counter. Look, I love hunting in Michigan. I've been blessed to be able to travel a large part of the world when I had the TV show, and all of those experiences were fun. All of those experiences were wonderful, and they were unique. But I always looked forward to coming back home to Michigan. And if I could, I would bear hunt in Michigan every year, but the system's just not set up that way. I can go to Ontario and get a tag over the counter every year. So every year I do that. I drive up the White River, see my friend Ron St. Louis of Northern Wilderness Bear Outfitters, and I hunt with him. So this year I'll be turkey hunting, and then right after that I'll be bear hunting in Ontario. And then, of course, there's always walleye fishing on Saginaw Bay off the Angler Quest. Hope to get out there a little earlier this year. So hopefully I'll have some walleye trolling in on Saginaw Bay, and then I can switch over to turkey hunting, and then I can switch to bear hunting in Ontario, and then I can come back home and really pound the walleye out there. That'd be a pretty good plan, wouldn't it? I think I'm gonna work toward that goal. Speaking of out of state, though, we do still have a couple of openings for our bow hunt in Ohio with Bill Piles of Ohio Bow Hunting Outfitters. I thought we were all set. I thought we were sold out. I thought we were filled up. But a couple of our hunters found out they had scheduling conflicts. So if you would like to join us for that hunt, there's a group of us going down here, most of us from Michigan, hunting Central Ohio, October 16th through the 20th. Hey, look, I realize that that's not a rut hunt, but we're not paying rut hunt prices either. We always see big deer. Not everybody kills a big deer, but we always see big deer. I like it enough to go down there. This will be my third year in a row, and I've hunted with Bill for many, many years. If you are interested, don't wait. Don't drag your feet. Send me an email to Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. That's Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. In fact, that email address is the best way to get in touch with me for just about anything. Questions, comments, concerns, criticisms. You have a suggestion for the Ask Avery. In fact, we'll be talking about elk licenses here in Michigan as well and how that system works. And should senior citizens get a little bit of a break because those seniors, you notice I didn't say us seniors, because those seniors might not have as many years ahead of them yet to apply for a tag. That'll be the Ask Avery segment, the last segment of the second hour this week. What else? Our big Trinity Monitor Wild Game Dinner and Auction coming up very soon. Everything that is not a live auction item will be available to bid online. Details on that next week. I'll give you the website where you can go and bid even if you're not at the auction. By the way, that venue, we've changed it this year. If you're joining us in person, just to make this clear, this is at the Great Hall in Midland this year, So don't go over to the old venue because nobody's going to be there. And we want to see you. Website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Again, the email address, mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Coming up on this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show, after the break, Kyle Green of the Greenway Outdoors joins me. Then Ed Roy from the Michigan Wildlife Council. In hour number 2, we're talking about coyote hunting with Randy Budde of Savage Dog Outdoors. We're talking about how the DNR then uses social media. And then at the end of the second hour, again, we're talking about should seniors get a break on applying for a Michigan elk tag. And in our third hour, we're talking about Michigan-made Rapid River knives with Kris Duerson. I'm holding up my Rapid River knife right now to the camera in front of me. With Kris Duerson, and of course we wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Miner. So that's what's coming up on the show this week. I'm so glad to have you along with us. You know, there are a lot of things you could be listening to right now, a lot of things you could be doing, but the fact that you are hearing my voice means a lot to me, and I do appreciate it. MikeAveryOutdoors.com, Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. We'll take a break. When we come back, Kyle Green of Greenway Outdoors right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Battle Creek on WBCK. That's 95.3 FM. You can hear us in Traverse City on WTCM 580 AM and north of the bridge in Iron Mountain, WMIQ 1450 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Boning Archery. Michigan-based Boning has been a leader in the archery industry for more than 3/4 of a century. How impressive is that? They started out with Mr. Boning himself, Roland Boning, invented Ferrule-Tite to glue broadheads to what were at the time wooden arrow shafts. These days, Boning continues to innovate, come up with new products. Think Blazer vanes. As I head into the springtime turkey woods and the bare woods this season, my rig will contain Boning products. I would encourage you to check them out. Go to the website, boning.com. That's BOHNING.com. And if you're looking for something to kill some time while you're waiting for springtime, consider building your own arrows, or at least, I mean, I'm not talking about building a carbon shaft. I'm just talking about, fletching them and putting on a wrap or maybe, some vanes and customize them the way you want. I've done that before. It's a lot of fun. The website, boning.com. Again, my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. But I would encourage you to head on over to this website, thegreenwayoutdoors.com. Thegreenwayoutdoors.com is the website of Kyle Green of Greenway Outdoors, and he's with me now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Kyle, welcome back to the show. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you doing?
I'm doing just great. And as I watch you, I am somewhat in awe of what you guys are accomplishing. A young guy following his passion, following his dream in the outdoors. Very cool, Kyle.
Well, thank you so much. And like I said, there's a few staples, a few people that I would always look up to in the outdoors. I grew up watching Michigan Outdoors. I grew up listening to you. I grew up listening to Ted Nugent. And I kind of had those Michigan-based organizations pushing me in the right direction to eventually realize and follow this dream. So for that, I thank you.
Well, that's very nice of you to say. Tell us more about you, Kyle. What is it that you're doing, and how did you get to this point?
Well, we started this show about 7 years ago, and what really inspired us was, and I say this all the time, every interview, but 60% of hunting and fishing licenses are sold to white males over the age of 55. And the problem with that, and people don't realize, especially in Michigan when we have problems like the Flint water crisis, but our clean water and comes from the sale of hunting and fishing licenses as well as equipment with our self-excise tax that we have on those things. So when someone buys a hunting or fishing license, those funds go to support our Department of Natural Resources, our clean water efforts, our species sustainability efforts, our fish hatchery efforts, all of these different things, our forests, all of these different programs are completely funded by the sale of those licenses, as well as the equipment that we buy to use in the outdoors. In addition to that, also these nonprofits like Ducks Unlimited that a lot of people have heard of, National Wild Turkey Federation, Trout Unlimited, those organizations, that membership is basically a representation of the age group that I mentioned before, 60%, over the age of 55 white males. So I realized the problem. I said, man, we got to get more, Generation Z and millennials in the outdoors. And we did some research and we found out that the biggest, most popular shows with those age demos was actually reality shows, which I would have guessed, but cooking shows was number 2, which I didn't guess. So I said, well, it's pretty easy to do a cooking show when it comes to the outdoors. So we designed a show to reach that audience that basically we cover the conservation of every species. So we might target Alaska sockeye salmon, which is an episode that's available already. We might be hanging off cliffs in Hawaii hunting axis deer, which is another episode that's available already, but a specific tactic for a specific species, and we cover the conservation of it. So we might use an example like in 1960, the wild turkey was extinct in Michigan, but because of hunter's dollars and conservation efforts and the sale of licenses and the National Wild Turkey Federation, now we have a huntable population. So by me hunting and buying that equipment, there's actually more turkeys. And so we cover the conservation of the species and really decriminalize it with the audience. Then we give you all the gear you need for the hunting or fishing trip. We show it to you in a reality show style format. I like to think it's funny. And it is, we have a riot while we're out there. And then we have a beautiful cooking studio, state of the art in Auburn Hills, Michigan, where we show you how to cook a real recipe from the game we got in the field, and kind of covering that field to table and also hitting those hot points with those younger generations to hopefully inspire the next generation. Because by my calculations, we've got about 10 to 12 years before things get really hairy and we lose a great deal of that 60% of the funding. And people don't realize we can't afford to have our taxes go up any more than they already are. So that's the mission that I live, sleep, breathe, and eat. My background was in television a little bit. When I was 21 and 22, I was nominated for a few Emmys for a local talk show that I produced at the time. But my passion and my drive for the outdoors just led me down this path, and God guided me to follow this dream. We started out on Pursuit Channel, and then we grew a little bit. We ended up on the Sportsman and Outdoor channels. But we actually just signed a deal, and this is monumental for the industry too, with the History Channel. So the Greenway Outdoors will be coming to the outdoor block of the History Channel in the second half of this year, which is absolutely huge because we're actually reaching a much broader audience now and bringing new people into the outdoors. Currently in the outdoor block, if you were to watch it on Saturdays, you would see shows like Mountain Men, Swamp People, Duck Dynasty, Alone, those types of shows. And those are all great. And they're all more drama-based than our conservation-based show. But it's the people that are watching that might be interested in the outdoors, but don't know this conservation message in this side. So I'm honored, excited, and thrilled to be able to reach that new audience and drag more people into this industry to protect its future.
Kyle, getting your show on the History Channel is absolutely huge. That is a tremendous accomplishment. How long did it take to put this thing together?
7 years. 7 years of waking up every day at 5 o'clock in the morning and going to bed at midnight. 7 years of relentless hard work. The team that's with me, too, by the way, is the exact same team that's been with me since day one. Same producer, who, by the way, is only 23 right now. So if you do the math on that, when he started with us. But we've got a producer who's only 23 years old. We've got a director who's in his early 30s. I mean, the team that has been with me, AJ, Ryan, Jeffrey, Ken, they have been with me since day one. And Kellen, our PR manager, is incredible, too. It's just the team around me is what made all this possible, but all of us just relentless, waking up every day, working harder than everybody else, putting in the effort so that we could get to here. And I'd say what really separated us, too, in the marketplace is we had an obsession with production quality, an absolute obsession, which, as you know, in the outdoor industry, there's a lot of kill shot shows with lower productions. And trust me, I watch them, right? Like, I'm a fan of them. But at the same time, I knew for it to make it to mainstream television, we needed movie theater level quality production. with true storytelling that was real in order to get those messages across. So we obsessed about that for years, and just continue to grow. But it's the same team with me since day one, and that's the only reason I was able to do it.
I love everything about this story, everything about this concept, the idea of taking this outdoor lifestyle that I talk about all the time, but I'm looking at it, Kyle, from a completely different perspective because I'm at a different point in my life. The idea of getting younger people involved is something that everybody's got to be in favor of. And the ways that you choose to do it, TV, social media, podcasting, I mean, you're approaching it from the places that people the age you're trying to reach are in, where they're listening to, what they're watching.
And that's what we've tried to do. We have another series called our Huntcast series, which is like our online short form series, and we utilize that to reach that audience that still just wants to go along to the ride for the hunt. So we distribute 10 episodes of the Huntcast per year in order to give the audience that wants that narrative. We release probably 30 TikToks per year. And then obviously, how hard it is posting on social media every single day, but reaching the audiences and having that original content there. We do 52 video podcasts a year. We do 20 full-length episodes of the main show per year. And then we do 25 how-to videos to give real information to people that are struggling just getting into the outdoors and need to know how to tie a fishing hook. They need to know how to properly handle a semi-auto shotgun, those sorts of things. So we are content maniacs, and that's what we focus on. But all trying to really hold that production quality, because that's something that is lacked in the outdoor industry. And I think people just kind of have a bad taste in their mouth about outdoor content. So we're trying to change that narrative and work with other organizations to guide them. I sit on like 3 different boards teaching these other groups on how to kind of follow this new path that we've taken. Other shows like Meat Eater have done this. They're the only, I would say that they were probably the trailblazers as far as mainstream television goes, because they obviously made it to Netflix, and they did bring in a new audience. I have a lot of respect for Meat Eater. Where we differentiate a little bit, though, is we're more palatable for the whole family. There's no F-bombs, there's no alcohol, there's no tobacco, those sorts of things. So we're a little bit more palatable for the whole family. You could have an 8-year-old kid watch this and not worry a thing about it, especially if they were good parents like you and like I hope to be one day. But that's kind of how we separated ourselves in the marketplace and how we're driving as much content as possible to those audiences.
I found it interesting when I approached you about getting back on the show here. You said, "Okay, is this going to be? Are we going to use Zoom? Or are we going to use cameras?" I said, "Nope, just a good old fashioned phone line." I mean, I love all the other different forms of communication, and I've got a bunch of different things I'm doing, but for this, it's just old style radio that does reach people, but it reaches a certain audience, and your audience is a younger audience. Do you hear from people who say, "Look, I didn't know about this before, and I saw it on your show, and now I'm interested"? That's got to be rewarding.
That's probably the best part. I would say that when we see when we review emails, let's say every time we release a new episode, I would say when we were on Sportsman Channel, when our show was just on that platform, we were getting about 100 emails per episode, and I would say 50 of them were questions, comments, or ideas, or whatever it might be about the recipe. I would say 40 of the people were really, really nice and grateful and about the episode, or they had specific questions, or they were sharing pictures of their kids after they watched the show and went out and did it, or something along that line. And then I would say 8 people thank us for including a Bible verse. And I would say the last 2 are just mean, but that's okay, because that's all part of it too.
If you've only got 2 who are mean, I think you're doing pretty good.
Yeah. Isn't it funny how those stick out, though?
Yeah, yeah, it is. Hang tight, Kyle. We're talking with Kyle Green of the Greenway Outdoors, the website, thegreenwayoutdoors.com, thegreenwayoutdoors.com. Kyle and his crew of young guys has done something that I think is extraordinary. They've taken this concept of promoting the outdoors to a new height. I mean, History Channel, think about this. They're out there with Mountain Men. They're out there with shows like Alone. And now we're going to see a Michigan-based show produced by a younger generation of outdoor enthusiasts trying to get other young people involved in the outdoors. It's all good. TheGreenwayOutdoors.com. More after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. Welcome back to Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the show on more than 30 stations across the great state of Michigan. The podcast available anywhere. Those broadcast stations include WZTK in Alpena, that's 105.7 FM. In Sandusky, WMIC 660 AM, 95.3 FM, and north of the bridge in Marquette, WDMJ 1320 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Killer Food Plots. It's getting to be that time of year. In fact, you could probably do some frost seeding just about any time now. In fact, I think I need to get the guys from Killer Food Plots, specifically Rich Krizan, back on the show to talk about that. Killer Food Plots, a Michigan-based company that can help you improve the habitat on your land. They do consulting, they do management, and they sell seed. And they sell very, very good seed. They're a reputable company. They've been around for a long time. And I trust them. I think they're highly respected. The website, killerfoodplots.com. That's killerfoodplots.com. I'm making myself a note right now. Rich Krizan next week. All right, killerfoodplots.com. Right now, though, we're talking with Kyle Green of the Greenway Outdoors, thegreenwayoutdoors.com. Kyle, where do we see the show, by the way?
Well, right now, if you go to thegreenwayoutdoors.com, you can see our past episodes that have been distributed, episodes 31 all the way back to, I believe, number 1 on there. And that's where they're going to live for now there, as well as Carbon TV. And then they're on a bunch of distributions through like Roku, Amazon Fire Stick, Tubi, those sorts of platforms, those streaming services. But in the second half of the year, we'll be launching on the History Channel. And that's the most I can say now. I know that I can say it's on Saturdays, and I know I can say it's in the second half of the year. But other than that, I'm not allowed to say much more about when it'll be on specifically. But, I'll keep you posted as soon as I'm allowed to actually say. But right now, I'm just trying to build as much recognition for the brands and have people watching for it on that outdoor block on History Channel.
Fair enough. Congrats again on that. Yeah, and you do you're a Michigan guy. You do Michigan topics, but you've also done some pretty cool and kind of crazy things all around the world.
Yeah, I will say a couple of the samples of that are some of the episodes in this series that will be on the History Channel, one of which was a buffalo hunt in Oklahoma that we did with the Comanche tribe. The great-grandson of the last Comanche chief, which was actually the only Native American tribe that never surrendered. Teddy Roosevelt actually became an honorary member of the Comanche because he had so much respect for them because of their protection over the buffalo. But we learned about their traditions. We talked to a vet on that episode as well, and that vet talks to us about the real reason why the buffalo almost went extinct. And it was not because the white men were killing them all, and it wasn't because the Indians were killing a bunch of them. It was actually disease. So we really bring that into the forefront and then talk about how those diseases even today are still the biggest threat to the buffalo and what we're doing to counter that, as well as proper shot placement. And then the storyline behind the actual hunt itself was just incredible, and being able to harvest a buffalo and just being able to do the Native American traditions around the campfire and just having that experience. It's an epic journey. We went to Maine and we did a moose hunt with the Department of Natural Resources there. It's a sad story, but the winter ticks in Maine in certain areas are absolutely destroying the moose populations not because of disease, but because of blood loss. They're finding tens of thousands of them on almost every calf up there in the area that we are in. And the mortality rate is over 80% right now. So they're actually trying to go in and kill all the moose, let the ticks die off, and then reintroduce other moose that are in the surrounding counties and areas and that sort of thing to bring them back afterwards. So we were a part of the team that went in and actually got to harvest a moose. In order to lower those numbers, to get rid of those winter ticks. And we really cover the science and the story behind that. But I always love Michigan. I love small river brook trout fishing. I love the turkey hunting in Michigan. The white-tailed deer hunting the numbers that we have here are just incredible. I'm a doe hunter myself. I go for meat. So Michigan is a great place to do that too. I love the fact that we have all the seasons. I love the ice fishing, although we didn't get much of it this year. We did not get much of it this year, but I love the ice fishing here too.
Well, I love the fact that you cover the story behind the story. And real quick, before we let you go, I was looking at some of your stuff online, and you were talking about dodo bird. How did you get to that topic?
Well, that's our podcast for you. We can end up anywhere. Anything that interests us, our podcast will cover. So while we do cover a lot of outdoor topics, if it's anything to do with animals or anything interesting to us, we can end up there. And Ryan, our producer, did a ton of research on the dodo bird, and the story was a sad one, but it was not what people think. And I actually put a similarity to them with the buffalo, that when you shoot a buffalo, the other ones don't run. They all go to see what happened to the one. And people would call them stupid for that, and that's kind of a big reason why they were easily killed in masses. But realistically, it's because they had learned over time that they didn't have predators, the ones that were being hunted like that. So it's not that they were stupid. It was that they learned over time that there's nothing trying to really kill me. And it was the same thing with the dodo bird, where they flew to an island off of Madagascar there, and they lived there, and they were there for a couple hundred years and lost all their need to fly. So they got bigger. They grew to be 3 foot big. Apparently they were tasty. So when the people showed up, they had no fear of anything because they had never been hunted before. So they were able to walk right up to and bop them over the head, and that's why they harvested them all. But
Kyle,
they used no restraint and killed them all.
Kyle, I got to let you go. Keep up the good work. Congrats on getting on the History Channel. We will look forward to that the second half of the year. The website, thegreenwayoutdoors.com, thegreenwayoutdoors.com. These are young guys who have it together, and they're promoting the outdoors, the history and tradition of the outdoors, and I have much respect for that. We'll take a break. When we come back, Ed Roy of the Michigan Wildlife Council right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in St. Joe on WSJM 94.9 FM. You can hear us in Tawas on WIOS 1480 AM 106.9 FM. And you can hear us north of the bridge in Newberry on WNBY 1450 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Rapid River Knives. You know I have a Rapid River knife in my pocket. I always do. Michigan-based Rapid River knives are designed to last a lifetime and to be handed down to future generations. They're handmade in the shop in Rapid River. They can be custom made if you want one designed specifically for you. Folding knives, pocket knives, gutting knives, skinning knives, fillet knives, kitchen knives, hatchets, axes, you name it. They make them right there in Rapid River. Their website, rapidriverknifeworks.us, rapidriverknifeworks.us. Kris Duerson of Rapid River will be joining me in the third hour of this week's show, so stay tuned for that. In the meantime, checking in with a group that I have that I really support, the Michigan Wildlife Council. They have a campaign called the Here for Generations campaign, and in some ways, in a lot of ways, it goes hand in hand with my guest from the previous segment, Kyle Green of Greenway Outdoors, talking about promoting the outdoors to people who didn't grow up in that lifestyle. That's basically what the Here for Generations campaign is about, exposing non-hunters and anglers to our way of life and telling them why it's important, even if we don't get them involved directly. Ed Roy is a member of the council and has been for a while. He joins me now on the phone line. Ed, welcome back. How are you?
Good morning, Mike. It's good to be back. I think we last spoke in August, so that was before the last hunting season.
Ooh, that's been a long time. So how was your season?
Well, the deer hunting season was very good, and, the bobcat season has been incredibly sporadic. I have not been out, and my buddies who have, it's been quite challenging, as you may have heard or may know. And I think the ice fishermen are not too far behind being challenged. And we've got 40 in rain as of yesterday and sun, so the snow's pretty much gone in Traverse.
And snow coming tomorrow. It's been a roller coaster.
That is an understatement, Mike.
Well, it doesn't affect, it affects our activities as outdoors men and women, but it doesn't affect your activities there at the Michigan Wildlife Council. You're plugging away, you're pushing the cause regardless of what Mother Nature throws at us.
Absolutely, every day and twice on Sunday.
So is it effective? Have you seen an example that you guys are making a difference?
Yes, I think, for context purposes, the second phase of the campaign ended in November of last year. So we target these or sequence what we do and what we do in the market based upon where and how we think we can influence people and reach people. And the second phase was focused on the benefits of hunting to Michigan. So that appeared to be measured successfully this past, I think, December, January, when Good Marketing, our partner in all of our work for the last, I think it's coming up, I think it's 10-year anniversary for the Wildlife Council.
Has it been that long? Wow.
I believe it was legislation in 2013 went into market with the campaign in 2016. And so what we found in the most recent survey results, there was a phone survey that occurs after November. And I think it involves about 800 people across the state. And I don't pretend to know all the research or statistical jargon specifically, but it's supposed to be representative. It's supposed to be a good measure of what we've been able to do or not do. But I think by and large it has been positive in kind of two ways. We talk about garnering support from the public for hunting and fishing, and that continues to increase. I'm not sure what the exact number is. I think what matters is that it's on an upward trend. But here's the more fascinating thing to me, and maybe to you too, being dyed-in-the-wool hunters and fishermen, and I know you're a shooting sports guy, but the other component that we picked up this time that is new in the sense of an increase, and that is the increased knowledge and support in the general public, and particularly Southeast Michigan, for Michigan's heritage and cultural, that hunting plays for heritage and culture. So that's a little bit deeper meaning, at least it is for me.
No. I think that's wonderful. That's not, you're not overselling that at all, because to me that's an integral part of this entire thing. If they get that part of the concept, then the rest of it's easier to sell.
Exactly. You said it better than I did, so thank you.
What about, now you mentioned the first two phases of the campaign. Is there a third phase?
Yes, and that is a very good question. It's in progress. So between now and, I want to say, the end of March, the Wildlife Council will be meeting to review recommendations, data. When we received the data on February 5th, it was like a week old, so there wasn't the drill down by Good and Mark Duda. I think it's Resource Management, his company, Responsive Management. And so we did a kind of a broad brush discussion then, but as we're working this forward over the next 4 to 6 weeks, we will come to closure on who we target, how we target, and have a real more fine-tuning of what's going on, including what has been suggested for a while, and this goes to the hunting and fishing community, that we're going to be focusing more time, energy, and money on those that already support hunting and fishing and all that goes with it, believing, I think, and this is kind of my personal belief for a long time, hunters and fishermen have a direct bearing or influence on the general public.
Ed, listen, keep up the good work. I am absolutely out of time. Keep up the good work. I will look forward to hearing more about where you guys are heading. The website is hereformioutdoors.org, hereformioutdoors.org, the Michigan Wildlife Council.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Eider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons and Polarcraft Boats, the Forward Corporation, Primal Outdoors, Security Credit Union, Garber Chevrolet, Brenton USA Hunting Rifles, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Indeed, this is the big guy, Mike Avery. Thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction. I do certainly appreciate it. People say, man, Ken Hunter, he's been the voice on your show for a long, long time. He has, I think, for probably something like 20 years now. And I appreciate him introducing me each week. Welcome, by the way, to hour number 2 of this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network on more than 30 radio stations across the great state of Michigan. Yep, I think I made the point by now. This is first and foremost a radio show. It is recorded, scheduled, distributed, syndicated as a radio show. And I think the best way to listen, if you can, is on your local radio station. If for nothing more than the broadcast stations get the content of the show before I upload the podcast version of the show. If you can't get all 3 hours of the show on your local radio station, or if you live in some part of our state not covered by the radio signal, the broadcast footprint, isn't it nice to know that there is a podcast available? I know everybody's got a podcast these days, and I'm one of them. You can hear the podcast version of the radio show on my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. You can hear it on my Facebook page. It's on my Twitter feed. It's on LinkedIn. But it's also on Amazon Music, Audible, Apple, Google Play, iHeart, SoundCloud, Spotify, TuneIn, Stitcher, the whole gamut. Anywhere you can hear a podcast, I bet you can hear the podcast version of the Outdoor Magazine radio show, even on YouTube. I do podcasts, though, for some of my advertising partners. I do a monthly podcast for Offshore Tackle, Angler Quest Boats, Primal Outdoors, and Polar Craft Boats. And today, when we're done here in the studio, we will record this month's Polar Craft podcast. So keep an ear out for that, if you would. Anyway, I'm just glad that you're along with me. I'm glad you can hear my voice, because without your support, if you weren't listening to the broadcast show or the podcast, there'd be no reason for me to do this. And I'm not quite ready to hang it up just yet. And you know why? Because I get a chance to talk about cool, fun things with cool, fun people. And right now we're going to talk with Randy Budde, who is just about as cool as they get. Randy is probably the best coyote hunter I know. And I know a lot of good coyote hunters. He's with Savage Dog Outdoors. You can find him on Facebook. And he's been out enjoying this break in the weather and knocking down some dogs. Randy, welcome back to the show. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Mike?
I'm good, but I am always impressed when we talk, because you have such a wealth of knowledge about predator hunting. How long have you been doing this, Randy?
Well, I've been doing I don't know, 30-some years, probably altogether, but wasn't very successful for a lot of those years.
Did we even have coyotes 37 years ago?
We probably had some coyotes around, but not very many back then. But you started out fox hunting, and not real serious about it, and not very good at it. But would go out and try. But then here, I don't know, probably the last 6-7 years, when they made center fires legal at night, is when I started getting serious about it. And then too, by then there was quite a few coyotes around. But yeah, 30-some years ago, there wasn't a lot of coyotes around. There was just a few around, but they were showing up.
Yeah. Do you hunt fox or bobcat at all these days?
I didn't hunt bobcat this year. Last year I did. I killed one last year. I didn't really want the hide. And in fact, here just a couple months ago, I just got the hide back from the tannery from last year. And with the bobcat, you got to skin them out, take the skull to the DNR, and get a seal put on it. And I didn't really want another one that bad, so I didn't really hunt this year.
No, I get you. Hey, let me ask you a question. And we know each other well enough that you know where I'm coming from here. This isn't a trick question. I'm not an anti-hunter, obviously. But people say, why do these coyote hunters, if they're not going to eat these things, why do they hunt them? What's the answer to that, Randy?
Well, to try to keep the population down. They're really hard on the small game and the fawns in the spring. They don't really, here in Michigan in the Lower Peninsula, they don't have no other predators to them besides us. So it's more just a population control. A lot of the lot of the deer hunters would like them gone, and because they do kill the fawns in the spring especially, and with the bobcats, it's the same thing. Of course, we can only kill up to 2 bobcats here in the state of Michigan, one in the UP and one down here, or I believe it's 2 in the UP. So that's pretty much the reason, just kind of keep the population in check.
Why? I know you're not a biologist, but you're an observer. You've been out there for a long time. Why do you think, what allowed the coyote population to grow like it has?
Well, I don't know. They're fairly new to Michigan. The first coyotes I seen around here were back in the early to mid '80s, and there's a fair amount of game for them to eat, and so they populated really fast. And I'd say they probably have 6 or 8 pups a year. I'm sure they all don't survive, but probably a large portion of them does. And now that we got a good population here in Michigan, every spring they add, if 4 of them pups survive, that's really increasing the population every year.
Well, you're doing your best to keep the population under control. Where do you find them, Randy? Do you find them out in the fields or in the woodlots, the swamps? I mean, where's the best place for a beginning coyote hunter?
Well, they're all over the whole state. For a beginning coyote hunter, his best bet is to try to find some place nobody else is hunting, because coyotes that's been called in before, they're a lot harder to call in, so they get educated real easy. So his best bet is to find some place that there's nobody else hunting that area. And then they're pretty much everywhere, but they're not. We don't have near the coyotes here in the state of Michigan like we have deer. I mean, there's a lot more deer than there is coyotes. So you do got to kind of jump around, and just because you're not calling them in don't mean they're not there. Sometimes they just don't want to respond to the call. And then other times, like the other night when I went Sunday night, and every place I went, I called in coyotes. I called 4 spots, and I killed 3 on the first spot, and then 1 at every spot afterwards. So, which I ended up with 6 of them that night. Like that night, they seem to be every place. But other nights you go out there and you won't hear them, you won't see them. It's just like they're not even there, but they're hearing you. But so the new coyote hunter, he just has to be persistent, because you're going to go out there and you're going to make a lot of stands and not call nothing in.
I would think, you said it's important to try to find some place where nobody else has hunted. That's got to be getting tougher and tougher, because coyote hunting is growing like crazy. There's more people out there now than there has been before.
Yeah, yes, that's right. And that's going to make it a lot harder for the new person trying to get them, because even us guys that's hunted them a lot, you get educated coyotes are very hard to call in. So, if you ask a landowner and he says there's somebody else hunting there, it's best just to move on, try to get a mile or 2 away from that area, because if there's too many people hunting them, they get educated, or if you call them in and miss them, they get educated, or if you call them in and spook them, they get educated, and so it's kind of best to try to get new ears is,
sure, I
guess, best way to put it. And then another important thing is make sure that you're very capable with your rifle. That's the thing that I figure helps me. I don't consider myself any better at calling them in than probably most of the coyote hunters. But the thing is when I get them in there, I can put the bullet where it needs to be.
Well, 6 in one night, we were talking about the other night, that's more, Randy, than a lot of guys will kill in a whole season.
Yeah, well, your first few years of hunting, if you could get 6 a year, that's pretty good. But and then too, the excitement adds to to your accuracy. I mean, if you're excited to get one, you've never got one before, that does make you a little bit of coyote fever.
Randy, hang tight. I want to talk more about that, and I want to talk about the gear you guys are using these days, but it's because it's pretty high tech, pretty sophisticated, and pretty cool. We're talking with Randy Budde of Savage Dog Outdoors. You can find these guys on Facebook. They've got some very cool video out there too, including an experience, and then you're going to have to scroll down the page for a while, including one of the guys was up in the UP calling coyotes, and he had a pack of wolves come in. That'd make for an interesting night, wouldn't it? Anyway, Savage Dog Outdoors on Facebook, Savage Dog Outdoors. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. When we come back, more with Randy Budde of Savage Dog, talking about hunting coyotes right here in the great state of Michigan. The Outdoor Magazine show in Carroll on WKYO 1360 AM and WIDL 92.1 FM. You can hear us in Lansing on WILS 1320 AM and north of the bridge on News Talk 1400 WKNW. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Michigan-based Whack'em and Plack'em, a very cool and unique way to show off your trophies. Use them with shoulder mounts, European mounts, even fish. For details, check out the website nontypicalinnovations.com. That's nontypicalinnovations.com. I have much respect for this company and Jason, the man behind it. He had an idea, he had a dream, he had a goal, and he made it happen. And you can see what he made happen on the website nontypicalinnovations.com. We're talking now with Randy Budde of Savage Dog Outdoors. You can find him on Facebook. Randy is a very good, very accomplished predator hunter, a coyote hunter, primarily at night these days. And Randy, you were talking about a few years ago, and it was Bob Abbott of Dog Tired TV who was one of the guys who really pushed for center fire rifles at night. And that did change things. It did open things up, didn't it?
Yes, it made it a lot better. I'd like to clarify here, Mike.
Yeah.
I don't think the Savage Dog Outdoors page is operational anymore. I think George shut that down. So if anybody wants to look at my videos of the shots and the pictures of the coyotes,
yeah,
and a little bit of shooting stuff, they can just go to my Facebook page, and it's public. So if they want to see them things, they can look there. But I don't think the Savage Dog page is working anymore. So
I was there the other day, and it was up. But I'm going to your page right now, and I appreciate, Randy, I appreciate you letting me know about that. Here we go. Excellent. Okay, so we'll go to Randy Budde, Budde, Randy Budde on Facebook, and you can see all the cool videos. Oh, you've got a bunch of them on there, Randy.
Yeah, I share mostly just hunting and shooting stuff on there.
Beautiful. Randy Budde, Budde on Facebook. Perfect. Yeah, and I appreciate you clarifying that. Talking about center fires, though, so what are you shooting with these days? What's your favorite caliber on coyotes at night?
Well, I use AR-15. I like them for nighttime hunting. And the caliber I'm using is a Wildcat cartridge. It's a 6.8 SPC neck down to 6 millimeter. And then I shoot 58 grain VMAXs. But anything like here in Michigan, after dark, we have to use a 269 or smaller caliber. So any of your 6.5s or smaller are legal after dark here in Michigan.
So basically what they're ruling out is 270 and above.
Yep. 270 and above is not legal after dark. In the daytime, it's legal.
Do you
and
even
that is
hunt?
Only...
Sorry?
And during in the lower peninsula where the restricted deer hunting is.
Yep.
you cannot use a center fire on public land after dark. And in the northern lower, where rifles are legal during deer season, you can hunt public land after dark with a center fire, but in the limited zone you can't.
Gotcha. Do you even hunt during the daytime at all anymore, Randy? For coyotes?
I bet I don't go 2 or 3 times a year in the daylight. It's all right, but it's just that I got used to hunting after dark, and I walk out in the field and I set my tripod up out in the field, and I don't have to try to hide or anything. So I just got used to that, and so I seldom ever hunt in the daylight. The coyotes are a lot more active after dark too, so that's better. And then I have all the nighttime gear, so yeah, seldom ever go in the daylight.
Well, let's talk about that nighttime gear. You've got some pretty sophisticated stuff you're working with these days.
Yeah, it's the kind of gear I use is not really real cheap. I use a thermal scanner to watch for the coyote, and then I have a thermal rifle scope on my rifle to shoot with. Thermals cost, well, for a cheaper scanner, you'll probably have $1,800 to $2,000 in a cheaper scanner, on up to, who knows, you probably could go up to $7,000-8,000, and the same with rifle scopes. They're a little bit more than the scanner, but it's amazing technology, but it's still fairly expensive. It used to be a lot more than it is now, but it has went down some. But there is some people that hunt with lights. I don't know if you ever watched that show Night Crew on TV. They hunt with lights. I don't, but it can be done with lights after dark.
Well, and that's the way most people started out, hunting with lights, looking for the reflection of the eyes in the light. And I don't know, Randy, you tell me, for somebody who's toying with the idea of getting into predator hunting, coyote hunting after dark, before you put a bunch of money into it, would going out there with lights, would that be a good way to test the water?
It would, yes. For a couple $100, you can have some lights. You're going to need a light on your gun, and then probably like a headlight. And usually they use red, and try not to shine the beam. When you're looking for the coyote, keep the light on all the time. But when you're looking for the coyote, try to shine that main spot of the beam up above the ground and just try to catch them with a halo. That with a red light, it don't look like it shines out there very far, but it really will pick up on eyes. And then once you spot that coyote, don't take the light off him. Just kind of keep him in that halo. And then when he starts getting closer, keep your headlight, keep his eyes in that halo with your headlight. Get the gun light on, and then just slowly bring it up onto him, and get that light on him. And if you're careful, you won't spook him.
Sounds like you're trying to hypnotize him.
Well, it's just that when you hit him with that bright beam, all of a sudden, it'll startle him.
Yeah, that makes sense.
If you just kind of bring it up on him slow, and then he probably just thinks that that light's been there the whole time, and he just now seeing it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Hey, I not being a predator hunter, I keep hearing about the breeding season, the coyote breeding season being so productive and effective. I think we're getting into the breeding season now, Randy. Is it the best time of year to hunt coyotes?
I don't know if it's the best time, but it's good. My experience is, and breeding season always comes this time of year, January, February. A lot of times we have really deep snow, and the predators don't like that deep snow any better than I do. So when it gets deep, it's hard for them to walk. They're not really the greatest at coming to the call. But now, like this year, we don't have much snow, and it's really been good. And they're a little touchy this time of the year when they think there's another coyote in their territory. So right now I'm using a lot of vocals to make them think there's a strange coyote in their area. But yeah, it can be good. All times of the year can be good, but first, right now, we have the least amount of coyotes to hunt right now because, there's been a fair amount of them killed off, trapped off, and then here in 2 or 3 months, we're going to have the most coyotes that we're going to have the whole year, because then the pups are going to be out there, but the pups will be out of the den probably in about, they'll probably start having them around April or so. And then about 3 months after that, they'll be out running all around. So that's when the hunting will actually be the best.
You talked about calling coyotes. How long will you give a spot before you give up on it and move on?
That kind of varies. I'll almost always spend at least 20 minutes there. And if I think there's a coyote there, or if I ain't got other places that I plan on hitting that night, I might spend up to an hour there. And then I won't be back there for at least 2 weeks. And usually it's a month or so before I'll come back and hunt the same place again. But yeah, anywhere from 20 minutes to an hour. If I've only plan on making one stand that night, I'll probably spend close to an hour there. But if I've got 5-6 places lined up I want to hit that night, then I'll probably only spend 20 minutes there. And another thing is, if you call in a coyote there and kill it, don't stop calling and leave. You might be anxious to get your hands on that coyote out there, but just stay tight and keep calling, because if there's one there's probably some more there. That's like Sunday night when I went the first stand, I shot 3 of them just within a minute or two of each other. One came up to 80 some yards and I shot it, and right at the shot, and I don't use a suppressor. A lot of people think it helps them. I'm not one of them that thinks it does anything other than makes it easier on my ears. Mm-hmm. But I shot that one at 80 some yards, and then there was another one in the back of the field, and he started running right to me, and he came up to 151 yards, and I shot him, and I stopped the video on my scope, and then I look back out there, and here comes another one from across the field, and it run up probably 20 yards closer than the one that was at 151, and I shot him. So, yeah, don't stop calling and leave just because you shoot a coyote. So I'm apt to stay there a little extra longer if I shot one.
Well, Randy, I would encourage people who want to get into predator hunting or who are coyote hunters now to listen to what you say, because I think you're one of the best out there. Always appreciate your time, and thanks for talking with me.
Well, thanks a lot, Mike. You have a great day.
You as well. Now, you can find more about Randy on his Facebook page, Randy Budde, B-U-D-D-E, Randy Budde, B-U-D-D-E, and you can see some of the videos he's talking about, some of these after dark videos with thermal vision and the shots he's making. Very, very cool. Randy Budde, B-U-D-D-E on Facebook. We'll take a break. When we come back, we're going to check in with the Michigan DNR for the next 2 segments here on Outdoor Magazine. Outdoor Magazine show in Sheboygan on Big Country Gold, WCBY, 1240 AM, 100.7 FM. You can hear us in Flint on Sports Extra 1330 WTRX. And you can hear us north of the bridge in Escanaba on WCHT, 600 AM, 95.3 FM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Suspension Max. If you want to lift your truck or level your truck, I cannot recommend the folks at Suspension Max enough. I've had them do, I think, the last 4 or 5 of my vehicles. Sometimes it was an overall lift. Sometimes, like in the case of my ZR2 that I just got, just raise the front end up a little bit. So it's a level ride and to give you more room to put bigger tires under it. That's what we did. Gave me room to put 35-inch tires underneath. Suspension Max, they've been in the business for a long time. They know what they're doing. They make great products. They have great customer service. The website, suspensionmax.com, suspensionmax.com. My website, of course, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. The website for the Michigan DNR, michigan.gov/DNR. The folks in the DNR, one of their goals is to reach their, what they call in some cases, constituents, their customers, the people that they want to be in contact with. How do you do that these days? Well, you got to go where people are, right? And social media is where people are. Tyler Zarnopis is the social media coordinator for the DNR, and he joins us on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Tyler, welcome to the show. How you doing? We lost him. Okay. All right. Well, Pat's going to call him back. All that build up. I do find it interesting, though. Kyle Green, who we had on in the first segment of the show, was talking about reaching out to people with social media. Ed Roy of the Michigan Wildlife Council reaches people through social media. Randy Budde's Facebook page is, of course, a social media outlet. And now we've got Tyler back on the phone line. Tyler, I was talking about how you guys at the DNR are trying to reach your people through social media. That's a big job these days, I got to believe.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's definitely a lot of folks following us and a lot of interest in what we want to talk about.
So what's the message? Is there a message you're trying to get out, or are you trying to just address individual concerns and individual topics?
It kind of boils down to, I look at it from 3 standpoints. First, I try to showcase the passion our staff have and the knowledge they have in the different fields that they pursue. I also try to inform and educate the public, as you know, there are a lot of topics that need a lot of discussion points. And then just building an overall interest in what we have in the outdoors, both from a natural resources and a cultural perspective.
And what have you found is your most popular, most followed social media platform out there?
So currently we have the most followers on our Facebook page. We have actually 72 different Facebook pages because of the amount of parks we have that have their own pages as well. 72? Yeah, that's a lot.
You don't generate content for all 72 of those, do you?
Nope. So my position is more overseeing kind of the general standard DNR practice and then kind of trickling down the standards that we use. And then we have somebody that works in the parks division, and she oversees kind of the implementation on a park standpoint. And then we allow the individual parks to kind of, with training, create their own content that is relevant to their locations, because they are basically communities that are built around these pages and these locations.
Gotcha. What's been the hottest topic that you've had to deal with lately?
Lately, I would say, we had, there was a lot of interest in the registration for the mandatory registration for deer. That was probably one of the hottest topics over the last year. But in terms of overall engagement, we get a lot of interest and it can vary wildly. We had free snowmobile weekend, which had a lot of people talking about that. We have a weekly segment called Identify Friday that I do that gets a lot of engagement, and that's not just hunters and anglers, but really anyone who's interested in things that we have in the outdoors.
Tyler, as you well know, unfortunately on social media, it can bring out the worst in some people. How do you deal with that? I mean, if you get somebody, there's a lot of DNR bashers out there. I hate the DNR. I think they're doing everything wrong. Do you try to reason with such people, or just, my favorite, the 2 buttons, ban, delete?
Well, we don't ban and delete folks from our pages. That's something that we have as an internal policy and from the state of Michigan level. But I generally look at those conversations, and I'm the one that reads those comments, those messages, and I look at it from the standpoint of these are people that have a lot of passion for these, and so I try to look at it from their perspective of they're concerned about something that is very important to them. So I try to do my best to get them information that at least provides clear and informative, what's going on, but also just letting them know that they've been heard is probably one of the biggest things that I do.
Tyler, that's a great perspective, though. These people wouldn't be making these comments if they weren't passionate about the topic and if they didn't have a love for the topic that they're discussing. I think that's a great way of looking at it.
Yeah, and it helps, it helps dial back the negativity and the impact it could have on me or some of our other staff when they read those things. It's just like, trying to think of it from a positive standpoint, that these are folks that just care.
So, Tyler, as we wrap this thing up, if I want to send people to, where to learn the most about the DNR, should I be using the website or should I send people to the Facebook page these days? Where do you want people to go?
Well, personally, if I were being, selfish, I'd say the social media channels, because I really like engaging with folks on those. But, it's really a combination of both. The website provides the really good meat and potatoes of everything, but the social media pages are for that, social, right? So it's a conversation that we can have back and forth with individuals.
Gotcha. Thank you, Tyler. Appreciate your time. Tyler Zarnopoulos, social media coordinator for the DNR, and I'm going to give the website. Tyler's not going to like it. Michigan.gov/DNR. We'll take a break. More coming up with the Ask Avery segment right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Ludington on News 97, 98, 98.7 WLDN. You can hear us in Port Huron, WPHM, 1380 AM, and north of the bridge in Manistee, WTIQ, 1490 AM and 95.3 FM. The Ask Avery segment is brought to you each week by my friends at Security Credit Union. Security Credit Union loves to work with outdoorsmen and women, and they can help you with your next outdoor adventure. Check them out online at securitycu.org. That's securitycu.org. The way the Ask Avery segment works is this is your chance to get involved in the content of the show. Send me an email with a question that you would like me to answer directly or a question you would like me to refer on to somebody else. My email address is mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. That's Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. That's what Jack Buys did. He sent me an email saying this. Hi, Mike. I'm in my early 60s, and I really want to get either an elk permit or a pure Michigan hunt, and I've been applying for years. I would propose added points for any hunter older than 60 years of age to give them a better chance of winning a permit. He said, I was able to go with my brother-in-law a few years ago when he got a nice 5x5, and there was a hunter there who had to wait till his 80s, and he basically had to hunt from the road because he couldn't wander out into the woods. Giving bonus points to a hunter when they can become a senior citizen would really help to get them out there while they can still enjoy it. Can you ask this question of the DNR? My pain is real. Jack, I can relate to your pain because I'm there with you, and I used to host the orientation meetings for the elk hunts. And there were many times I would see young people, very young people, who got a bull tag in their first year of applying. So I wonder, how does this all work? And is it feasible to give seniors a little bump because maybe we aren't going to be around forever? Lisa Jackson is with the DNR, and she is in charge of the lotteries. She's the woman you want to schmooze to get your pure Michigan tag, to get your elk tag, and to get your bear tag. Lisa, if I say nice things about you, will that help my odds?
Well, I have to tell you, Mike, first of all, good morning. It's nice to chat with you.
Always a pleasure.
This is a really great question, and it's a good opportunity to just mention that elk are a public resource. They actually belong to everyone. So hunting is a limited opportunity that we really have to fairly administer and allow people to share. So while, and actually the current system does give some opportunity or added opportunity to people who can apply every year, like seniors. You earn more chances, but even someone applying for the first time can be selected for a tag, as you mentioned. So it's really getting to that point that this is a public resource that belongs to everybody, and we have to have an equitable system to issue licenses.
So I think you're telling me that to give people of a certain age an extra point or an advantage wouldn't be fair?
It wouldn't be in keeping with law because elk are a public resource in the law. So we really have to make sure that we have an equitable system. And as I mentioned, just because we do have a weighted system and people can earn chances and have a little bit better chance of getting a tag, seniors kind of do have a little bit of an advantage in that system. It is a slight advantage, though, and as you mentioned, people can be selected applying for the first time.
I never would have thought of the whole legal aspect of this, Lisa.
Yeah, it's all of Michigan's wildlife are a public resource. It belongs to literally everybody.
So this would be the same thing with a bear tag.
It sure would, absolutely. And in terms of giving seniors a break on things, as you may know, we do give a discount on certain hunting licenses. So the base and deer licenses are more than half off. So we do recognize that we want to, give seniors some advantages, but we have to be careful with a public resource like this because it does belong to everybody.
Hey, I'm just asking for a friend. When does that senior discount, when does that become available?
It's available when licenses become available. So March 1st, the licenses go on sale for 2023. And from that moment through the entire season, those discounts are in place.
Again, just asking for a friend. At what age can you get that senior discount?
65.
Okay.
For friends.
I'll let my friend know about that. All right, so Lisa, it's an interesting topic that the whole weighted system. You and I could talk about this for a half hour, I think, because it does. There are some nuances, and on one hand it appears very straightforward, but on the other hand, it's. I don't know. It's an interesting system for me. I'm glad I'm not the person who has to keep track of it, and I appreciate the fact that you take it so seriously.
Well, and luckily we have a system that actually implements. So it's all done by computer, and it's really pretty simple. If you're not selected for a tag, you get an extra chance for future drawings.
So there's nothing I can say to you that's going to help me out.
I have to go by the law. I'm so sorry.
All right, Lisa Jackson, I appreciate that. Thanks for your time. Thanks for some clarification.
You're very welcome. Have a wonderful day. Thank you.
You as well. Jack Buys, thank you for reaching out with that question, too. Jack sent me an email to Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. That's Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Jack, you heard what Lisa say. You're not going to get a break for being up there in years. And neither am I. And if I wait long enough, this is an interesting point. By the time I buy my fall deer tags, I can get a senior discount. I'm going to wait and do that. There are some advantages. And thanks to our friends at Security Credit Union for making the Ask Avery segment possible. SecurityCU.org, SecurityCU.org. We'll talk with Kris Duerson of Rapid River Knives coming up in hour number 3.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Eider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons and Polar Craft Boats, the Forward Corporation, Primal Outdoors, Security Credit Union, Garber Chevrolet, Brenton USA Hunting Rifles, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to hour number 3 of this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show. Right here in the Outdoor Magazine radio network, and so glad to have you along with us. What is this show about? This show is about the outdoor lifestyle. Promoting, whenever I can, the history and tradition of the outdoor lifestyle of hunting and fishing and shooting and trapping. All things wholesome, all things biologically sound, biologically necessary, and just plain fun. When you think about your outdoor passions, we have a lot of different tools and toys that we use. You've got your deer rifle that you love so much. You've got your upland shotgun. You've got your bow. I've got my Angler Quest. And all of these things are fun and a big part of how we enjoy the outdoors. I got to be honest, though. I'm thinking of, well, there's something in my pocket right now. In fact, I just pulled it out. There is this one piece of gear that literally is with me every day. It's in my pocket the entire day, and I use it multiple times a day. And I can't think of one piece of gear that I use more or even as much as my Rapid River knife. Kris Duerson is the guy behind Rapid River Knives, and he's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Kris, welcome back to the show. How are you?
I'm great, Mike. How are you?
I am doing just wonderful. And I don't know, did you hear my introduction there on the knife? I mean, Kris, I use this thing all the time.
I did, yeah. Hey, that's just a pocket knife is something that most of us use every day, several times a day.
It is, and I've been carrying a knife in my pocket since I was a kid. It's part of the lifestyle. It's part of. I remember when I got my first knife, man. When my parents said I was old enough to have a jackknife, we called it at the time. That was a big deal, Kris.
Oh, absolutely. I remember when my dad took me down to the local hardware store and bought me my first jackknife. It was a real big deal and a big responsibility. Definitely something you never forget.
Oh yeah. Is jackknife, is that a word that we don't use these days? I mean, I don't hear it that much anymore.
I'm not sure. I mean, I it's kind of evolved, from jackknife to pocket knife, but I think it's still about 50-50.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how did you get started, going from a kid who got his first jackknife to a guy who's running and owns Rapid River Knives in the UP?
Well, we've talked about this before. I worked at Marble Arms in Gladstone while I was going to college. I'd go in the evenings and in the afternoons whenever I had time or didn't have classes, and I built knives and actually fixed a lot of the old knives. Some of the stuff was 100 years old. I worked on that stuff, and the Marbles kind of shifted gears there in the late 90s, early 2000. I knew that there was going to be a big void in the market for custom handmade knives. And so I had left and started this company now, Rapid River Knife Works, in my dad's barn, about 6, maybe 7 miles away from Marbles. And everybody told me I was crazy and that I wouldn't compete, and I couldn't compete with them, but I did it anyways. And in about a year's time, Marbles Cutlery Company had filed for bankruptcy. And we went ahead and hired the best person from each department in the cutlery division, and just kind of took it was a leap of faith.
So is Rapid River an evolution of Marbles or a completely different company?
Well, it's a completely different company, but we have a lot of the same people that still work here that started here 20 years ago that worked at Marbles. It's partially an evolution of it. I mean, I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for them.
I got you.
There's no doubt about that.
I got to believe that finding a person who is an expert at making knives like you have there, that's a pretty good find. Those people aren't just walking the street everywhere.
No, it's very difficult. Very difficult. You might have six months to a year into training a knife maker, and especially somebody to grind a blade is extremely difficult. And then you get into the handle shaping and all the components that go into making a handmade knife. It's very difficult. So I would take, if I could, I'd take 10 more people right now.
Oh, really? Really?
Oh yeah, for sure.
I'm looking at my knife right now in my hand. Are your knives, is my knife as a representation of your knives, is this a one of a kind, or do you have some knives that come off an assembly line and they're all basically the same?
What was that question again, Mike?
Chris, are your knives all custom made, or is there some kind of an assembly line where they come across and they're all the same knife being stamped out after another, after another, after another?
No, so especially a knife like yours, one person starts your knife and from start to finish, and when especially being you have the mammoth knife. We do have a semi-production line that we make that some dealers sell, the retail stores, sporting goods stores, that type of thing, where we'll have 5 or 6 guys that are building knives, and then that moves on to the next group of guys that shape the handles, and one guy he'll shape it, and the next guy will do a different sandpaper grit to the handle, and then all the way down the line to where it's polished, and then it moves on to the sharpening and grinding line. So in a way they're all different. Everybody's got their own style as well. So even though they're all, we might be making 150 to 200 at a time, everybody's knife turns out a little bit different.
So when I say on the show these things they're handmade by craftsmen in the UP, that's an accurate statement.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yep. You can stand right in our showroom and watch them being made by hand every day.
Let's talk about that showroom. Yep. What an impressive, beautiful place you've got there on US 2, just east of Rapid River. Nice job, Kris.
Well, thank you. It was. It started out. Our first retail store I had opened in the fall of 2002 in an old gas station, about a mile and a half east of our retail store now. And we outgrew that real quick. And so I knew that I wanted to be on the main highway and have a big sign. I think that's one of the key things of having a successful retail business. And there aren't too many places in Rapid River available. So I took a ride one day, and the guy had just put up a building maybe a year earlier, and he called it Fruits, Vegetables, and Stuff. And he built it with the idea in mind of just reselling the building, and the property. And I just walked in and I said, "Hey, are you interested in selling your building and your property?" And he looked at me and said, "Yep." Never hesitated. And 40 days later, we were moving in, and that's where it started. And I bought some extra land right next to me because I kind of anticipated that we would outgrow that building as well. And I'm glad we did, because we added on that 6,500 square feet in 2018 to the retail store. So it's an experience.
It's a destination.
Sure. It's not just a knife shop.
No, it's a destination.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I wanted to create. More than just a knife store. It's definitely a destination in the UP. We're one of the most recommended places at the Welcome Center at the Mackinac Bridge. So much so that we have a knife display there in the display cases. So
I didn't realize that. Hang tight, Kris. We got to take a break here on the Outdoor Magazine Show. We're talking with Kris Duerson, the man behind Rapid River Knives. I've got my Rapid River knife in my hand right now. Normally, it's in my pocket. I use this thing every day. And of all the knives I've ever owned in my life, I got to say this is the most special one. You pick up these knives and you can just feel a difference. I've given these for gifts to my friends, my family, and I would recommend you give them a real close look. The website, rapidriverknifeworks.us, rapidriverknifeworks.us, or do what Kris said and just stop by the showroom there on US 2, just east of Rapid River, and experience it for yourself. We did a Wednesday night live up there. Oh, it's been over a year ago now. Kris and I have been talking. I plan to go back up there again this year. But why don't you beat me up there and head on up? And the website, again, rapidriverknifeworks.us. We'll take a break. When we come back, we want to talk to Kris about what goes into building a knife, what goes into maintaining a knife, what goes into sharpening a knife, and what might be the best knife for you. That's coming up after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Houghton Lake on the Twister 92.1 WTWS. You can hear us in Holland on WHTC 1450 AM 99.7 FM. And you can hear us just up the road in Muskegon on WKBZ 1090 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by VersaSkins, Michigan-based VersaSkins. Their owner, Paul Perrone, has come up with a great concept. Why spend a bunch of money on different sets of hunting clothes when you can buy one good quality set that is warm, windproof, waterproof, and just snap on and zip on an outer shell with a different camouflage pattern? Go to the website, versaskins.com, versaskins.com. You'll see what I mean. And Paul, in fact, will be at our big Trinity Monitor Wild Game Dinner coming up Saturday, March 4th. He will be there in person. You will be able to see his wares there. In the meantime, head to his website, versaskins.com. Also encourage you to go to my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com, and jump on over to RapidRiverKnifeWorks.us. RapidRiverKnifeWorks.us, the website of Michigan-based, family-owned. You know I love those two things, Michigan-based, family-owned. I seek out Michigan-based, family-owned, outdoor-related companies to work with. And Rapid River Knives is one of them. We're talking with Kris Duerson, the owner of Rapid River, the man behind Rapid River. Hey, Kris, I heard a rumor that before Christmas, your knives were so popular that you sold out of everything in that huge showroom. Is that true?
That's absolutely true. We didn't have a single knife left in the building. In fact, I think we even ran out of hats, which is hard to believe. But yeah, it was. So every year we build more and more and more knives because we typically run out right before Christmas. And this year we stopped taking guaranteed Christmas orders on the 11th of November.
Wow.
Or on the 10th of November, excuse me. And we still ran. We delivered everything that we promised, but we completely ran out of knives. We didn't have one left.
You know what it is, Kris? It's that radio exposure.
It must be.
That's what I'm thinking. Keep thinking that direction, and we'll talk again. So, what is your most popular knife? Is it that folding knife that I have in my hand right now?
Yeah, it's our Uper series pocket knife, and especially the one you have, the larger of the two. That's I would say pocket knives outsell fixed blade knives January through July about 8-1. That's just because everybody wants to carry a pocket knife, and then it starts to turn a little bit once hunting season gets closer and people start getting online and ordering and looking for their hunting knife for their trip or for gifts and stuff like that for hunting season. But yeah, our pocket knife line is growing slowly, but we're every year we try to add one, which doesn't sound like much, but it's a big project when it's a handmade product. So
I haven't found anything yet that this knife will not do, from, gutting deer to cleaning fish to, anything. And what's the blade on this thing? About 3 inches? Is it that long even?
It's 2 3/4. 2 3/4 inch. Yeah. Yeah, and the reason we did that, I mean, that's a great length blade. You don't need a huge blade to do anything. I mean, you could field dress an elk with that knife if you wanted to. But it also meets a lot of state laws for blade lengths that you can have for a pocket knife. So we typically try to keep them 3 inches and under.
Do you think when people go to buy fixed blade knives that they tend to buy them bigger than what they really need?
Absolutely, and that's changed over the last 20 years. I used to have guys that walk in and they'd say, "I'm looking for a hunting knife," and they'd spread their fingers out about 14 inches long, apart. And I'm thinking, that's completely overkill. You're only going to use 3/4 of an inch to an inch of the end of that blade, and the rest is just going to get in the way. We don't make any really big fixed blade knives just for that reason. We tend to build things that we use that are practical and that people are looking for. I mean, the Bowie knives are popular. We build a few here and there, but typically we try to stay 5.5 to 6 inches and under, and most of our knives are 4 inches and under blade length, the cutting edge.
The steel that a blade is made out of, that's got to be the heart of the knife.
That's where it starts. Yep. Yeah, if you don't start with good steel, you can put the fanciest handle you want on it and shine it up and polish it up as nice as you want. But if somebody walks in, a day later and says, "Hey, this thing wouldn't field dress a deer," that doesn't work. And you're not going to sell the guy a fillet knife because he's not happy with his hunting knife. So you have to start with the right type of steel, and that all goes back to starting with steel that's got carbon in it. You have to have carbon in it.
Doesn't all steel? Doesn't all steel have
butcher knives?
Doesn't all? I'm ignorant, so forgive me. Doesn't all steel have carbon in it?
There's a certain amount, but I mean, so your stainless steels have a lot more chromium and the alloys in them. The carbon tool steels, A2, D2, that type of thing, that's very high carbon tool steel, specific tool steel, which is absolutely the best stuff that you can use, for knives, for edge retention, especially.
So how does this come in, on big rolls or in bars or what?
It's sheet stock. We order it sheet stock, and it comes in a big sheet, and it's the blanks are cut out with a water jet, and then everything's hand ground from that point.
What?
The only thing we don't do in house on our production knives is we do not heat treat the blades. We heat treat the pocket knives and axes and all that kind of stuff, but the big production run stuff we don't, because if you screw up 8,000 blades, that's a big bill, and the heat treating is extremely important when it comes to that edge retention and the Rockwell hardness and that type of thing. So I send that out to a company actually in Michigan down South Lyon, and they heat treat our blades after we do an initial grind on them.
I would think on a knife too, you've got to have a happy medium here of having it be soft enough that an edge can be put on it, but hard enough to hold that edge for a while. Is that kind of a give and take there, Kris?
Yes, and not so hard that it's brittle. So there is a fine line there. We try to keep most of our knives right around 58 to 60 Rockwell, which is a pretty standard Rockwell hardness in the knife industry. But for our fixed blade knives, which are almost all D2 tool steel, the 5860 Rockwell we found has been perfect. It's worked well for us for 21 years now.
Here's a question people ask. Well, I hear this among outdoorsmen and women all the time. Well, I like to put such and such an angle on my knives, or I like to put such and such. What is there an ideal angle, edge angle for a knife?
It really depends on what the end use of your knife is going to be. If it's going to be a multi-use knife, if it's just going to be a deer hunting knife, or if it's going to be a fillet knife, there are different angles for everything. I like, on our fixed blade knives, I like to put a utility working edge on it, about a 30-degree edge, which allows you to field dress 6, 8, 10 deer with that knife before you have to resharpen it or put a new edge on it. If you grind it too thin and you hit a bone with it, then you're done. And it needs to be reground again. You roll your edge over. So that 30-degree angle is a good utility, good working edge, and it's always worked really well for us, and our customers have always been really happy with that.
You talk about resharpening. Is this something I can do? Do I have to? I know that you offer a resharpening service. If I send my knife to you or bring it back up, you'll sharpen it for me. Why can't I just do that at the house, or how would I do it at the house?
You can. But sharpening a knife is an art, and 99.9% of the people in this world can't do it. And the reason for that is, if you're using just, let's say, a simple whetstone, you have to keep the same angle on both sides of the blade. Otherwise, you're just rolling your edge back and forth, and that's where people get frustrated because they can't get that good crisp edge on the knife. So you need some kind of a jig or a tool or a sharpening system that actually holds the same angle on both sides of that edge, so that you get the perfect grind on both sides that's equal.
And you've told me before the key to keeping a knife sharp is to keep it sharp. Don't let it get dull.
Yeah, strap that thing on a piece of leather on a belt, like the barbers do, with the straight razors. They'll strap those straight razors for months and months before they send them out to have them professionally resharpened. So if the more, if you field dress a deer, strap that thing on a belt, even on a piece of, denim or, a Carhartt pant material works real good. Anything to break that little microscopic burr off the edge of the blade so that the burr doesn't get so big that when it breaks, your edge is rolled over. So if you maintain it as you go, you're going to get way more edge life out of it.
Gotcha. Before I let you go, Kris, I just want to point out your knives have a lifetime guarantee. You can send them back or bring them back to Rapid River, and you guys will fix it for free.
Yep, 100% lifetime warranty on everything that we make, and we sharpen and polish everything free for life.
All right, Kris. Appreciate your time. I'm going to get back up and see you guys. We'll set up a Wednesday night live where we can show people the showroom again. And next time we talk, let's talk about your hunting and fishing adventures, because I know you're a hardcore fool. So we'll talk again.
Yeah, absolutely. Sounds good, Mike. Thanks.
All right. Kris Duerson of Rapid River Knives, the website rapidriverknifeworks.us, rapidriverknifeworks.us. And I say hardcore fool with all respect. All due respect. We'll take a break. When we come back, a few more things I want to talk about. Then we'll wrap it all up with Chef Dixie Dave Miner right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Houghton Lake on 98.5 WUPS. In fact, you can hear UPS across much of the northern Lower Peninsula. You can hear us in Manistee on WMLQ 97.7 FM. And you can hear us in Saginaw on WSGW AM and FM, 790 AM, 100.5 FM. I'm in the studios of WSGW right now. Actually, this corner of the building, everybody knows it's Pat Johnston's studio. I'm just here to borrow it for 3 hours a week. Pat's running the board for me, doing the phone calls, doing a wonderful job as always. Pat, do certainly appreciate it. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by the Linwood Beach Marina and Campground. Linwood Beach can be your year-round Saginaw Bay fishing destination and your Mid-Michigan Tracker and Angler Quest headquarters. Boy, the folks at Linwood Beach have had quite a year as far as open water and then ice and open water and then ice. Ice fishing season on Saginaw Bay really never did kick into gear. There were a few hardcore souls out there, but really not much of an ice fishing season. But the open water trolling season was longer than normal, and I think is going to kick off earlier than usual this year. So I like to say that Linwood Beach is a great place for ice anglers, for boat anglers, for camping, for storage, but you're not thinking about storage now. You're thinking about getting your boat out, and for maintenance and repair as well. LinwoodBeachMarina.com is the website, LinwoodBeachMarina.com. Linwood Beach has donated a launch pass, a yearly seasonal launch pass for our Trinity Monitor Wild Game Dinner and Auction. That's one of the silent auction items. Many items like that, including a dart and crossbow, wrecked broadheads, will be available in an online auction. It's basically our silent auction, but it's available online, even for people who aren't there. That will kick off the Thursday before the dinner. I'll have details next week as we get closer. And just a reminder, if you're going to join us for that event this year, we've moved it to the Great Hall in Midland. It's no longer at the previous venue. It's now at the Great Hall in Midland. So if you show up at the old location, we're not going to be there. And I'd love to see you. So what else is going on? The weather has been up and down, as it has been for much of the wintertime. As we're sitting in the studio right now, it's been very warm. We got a cold front coming in. We're talking about snow, but the robins have returned to my backyard. I know you might say they've never left. Well, I get that. Not all robins head south, but I hadn't seen any robins since November or December, which leads to the question of why do we have a robin as a state bird if the stupid things are going to fly off and leave us? Why don't we have a state bird that's actually going to stick around and deal with things like the rest of us have to? So I would be in favor of dethroning the robin as our state bird. I have not seen any dead skunks in the road yet, but I've heard a lot of reports. For me, the true sign of spring is always when the red-winged blackbirds return to the pond behind the house. I have not had any yet as of the time we're in the studio, but I have reports of folks in the southern part of the state who have been seeing them. What else? Turkey season coming up. As I drive around, I find myself looking for flocks of turkeys. While I'm looking for those turkeys, and granted, their patterns will not be the same when the season comes around as they are right now. But in my mind, it's just good to know that there are birds in an area. What I am seeing right now is herds of deer. I'm not just talking about single deer or a couple of deer, herds of deer. And I'm sure you've seen the same. As you drive around the back roads and the two tracks right now, if you see a deer, you're going to see a herd of deer. Speaking of big game, the Michigan DNR has proposed to the NRC to decrease the number of tags available for Michigan bear hunters this year. And the reason being, Michigan bear hunters are getting better. We're killing more bear. We're harvesting more bear. So the DNR wildlife biologists don't want too many bear to be taken, so they're proposing a decrease in the number of tags. I'm no wildlife biologist, so I'm not going to argue with that at all. I will tell you anecdotally that I believe the range of the bears is expanding. We're seeing bears routinely now in the central part of the state, in mid-Michigan, although I realize just because the range is expanding doesn't necessarily mean the numbers are expanding as well. It'll be interesting to see if the NRC acts on that request or if they decline. In the meantime, though, I'm going to go back to Ontario this spring, and I'm going to hunt bears up there. What else? Oh, we still have a couple of openings for our Ohio bow hunt. I thought we were filled up, and then a couple of the folks who were going with us found out they had conflicts with their schedule and couldn't make it. So I'm going to throw it open again. If you want to go bow hunting with us for whitetails in Ohio this fall, the dates are October 16th through the 20th. A group of us from Michigan primarily are heading down. We're going to hunt with Bill Piles of Ohio Bow Hunting Outfitters. The cost of the hunt is $2,500. Bill wants half of it down now, the rest when you come down there. But I will tell you that is a very, very good price for a fully guided hunt. Free range. We're not behind a fence. Lodging and meals are included. Go to Bill's website, ohiobowhuntingoutfitters.com, ohiobowhuntingoutfitters.com to learn more about the operation. And if you want to go down with us, send me an email, Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com, Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. I will do my best to make sure that happens. Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. My website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. My email address, mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. Please do not hesitate to reach out to me at that email address with your questions, your comments, your criticisms, your concerns, your Ask Avery questions. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. When we come back, we'll wrap it all up, as we always do, with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Miner right here on Outdoor Magazine. Welcome back to Outdoor Magazine. My name's Mike Avery. Glad to have you along with us. You know, you've heard the old saying, save the best for last. Well, you could say that I do that every week here in the Outdoor Magazine radio show when I save the last segment of each week's show for wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Miner, good friend of mine, a guy I've known and worked with for a long, long time. David, welcome back. How are you?
Real good. Hey, Mike, you know that what we judged the other day when we picked the best of show and like that, ours came in 1, 2, 3.
I was gonna talk to you about that. It was really nice to see you at that event. What exactly was that, Dave?
That is it's a culinary event that adult chefs get to compete in for trophies and like that. And there's some prizes involved too. It just, everybody gets to show off their talent. Some of the younger chefs coming up get to pick ideas and stuff like that from the older ones that are in there. And it's just a great event. The public gets to come and try. It's a fundraiser for the Helping Hands and the Chefs Association, where they divvy out money throughout the year. So it's a great cause. They limit it to around 400 or 450 or something like that. Wow. People coming in. So it's a good fundraiser, and they do make a fair amount of money.
Well, I was honored to be asked to be a part of it, and I just followed your coattails. I said, whatever score you put down, Dave, that's what I'll put down. And apparently, we picked the right one, or we were trendsetters. We were leaders.
I think so. We hit it right on the nuts, just like everybody else voted for it. Even the one with the bread, she got best of show.
Oh yeah, and that was at Zender's.
Yep.
Oh.
Every year about this time. Sometimes it coincides with Snowfest.
And it was nice to see John Sr., too, John Zender Sr.
Oh, I know, man. John's, and we have a hunting property that's 15 minutes apart. And a lot of times we don't get to see him during hunting season, but in the summer times we have bonfires and gatherings of that nature. And it's good to see him always. He's such a knowledgeable and a straightforward shooting guy like you can't believe. Love the guy. I was driving up from downstate. My wife Denise and I were last weekend. I had to stop and get gas in Birch Run. And I looked over at the old Oscar and Joey's. I almost expected to see it torn down, but it's still standing, Dave. Yep. Sometime after the 14th of March, they're going to tear it down. We've got the siding off. We saved that. We're going to build a pole barn with it at the cabin and all kind of other stuff that we've either thrown out, given away, sold, or whatever. It's just been hectic, I'll tell you what. This retirement ain't all that it's cracked up to so far. What I keep telling you, Dave, is just get through it until we get into springtime, and then you got an open invitation on the Angler Quest, and I'm going to get you out there fishing Saginaw Bay walleye, because I know it's been a while since you've done that, because you've been so darn busy. So I think just hang in there a few more weeks, and then I think you're going to fully embrace retirement and relax and get a chance to breathe a little bit. I think it's going to be great during the summertime. There's just so much to do. I got a fair amount of property that I can maintain and cut firewood and all kind of stuff like that. Keep the food plots going real good. So it's going to be a lot different other than in the middle of the winter. Well, in the meantime, we're going to keep you a little busy with a little thing we call the Trinity Monitor Wild Game Dinner and Auction coming up Saturday, March 4th. Dave, I'm so excited for this, and so are a lot of other people. I talked to Deidre last night, which would have been Tuesday night. There was 6 tickets left.
Yeah. We thought we had them all sold out. I think some people had to return. So yeah, we will sell this thing out. And I want to let people know, we've had this event before at a different venue. This year, it's at the Great Hall in Midland. The Great Hall in Midland. Looking forward to that venue. We can get more people in there, and we can have more room to move. So I think it'll be a good deal.
I think it's a good change myself too, Michael.
Yeah. Obviously, we're not doing a recipe, Dave. What are you cooking up for us at the Trinity dinner?
Well, we have some elk tips in red wine sauce. We have the Cajun wild boar, which goes over like gangbusters. Every one of your events, people have just about taken all of that. We have chicken for the non-game eaters, and we have apple roast pork loin also. Plus all the fixings, rice and carrots and oven roast red skin, Caesar salad, and stuff like that.
Dave, we've got some great auction items, everything from an African safari to a walleye fishing trip on the Detroit River and everything in between.
Now that I got time, I'm going to bid on that safari.
Hey, I didn't think of that. I'm going to be looking for you when it's time for the live auction. I'm going to say, go get Dave and bring him out here.
Okay.
All right, David, listen, always a pleasure. We'll wait and do a recipe next week.
Okay, yeah, we still got time before squirrel season and rabbit season, small game season ends.
What do you think, then? A squirrel? Squirrel for next week?
Yep.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, buddy. See ya.
Okay, thanks, Mike.
Wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Miner, a big part of the Outdoor Magazine show. It was great to see Dave. It was great to see him. To see him in a restaurant situation without his chef's coat on. And he was there judging, and there were several different categories you could judge. I was hoping to get the dessert category because that's something I could feel I could relate to. They gave me the French food category, which I don't know. So I followed Dave's lead, and it was good. Anyway, glad to have you along with us. My name's Mike Avery. The website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. My email address, Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'll look forward to hearing from you. Have a great week. Get outside, have some fun. We'll talk to you next time right here on Outdoor Magazine.